Hello and welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be covering a new allegiance that we know will be coming sometime in the future, where they came from, and what we know about them. This is the story of the Sandmen. Before we get into the lore details, let's cover how we know that the Sandmen are coming. Way back in 2017, Weird ran a global campaign called Homefront. The main goal was for Malifaux players to decide which one of three themes would become a new syndicate in the other side. The best part? That syndicate will be universal, so every single allegiance would have access to them. The lore itself doesn't seem to be on Weird's website anymore, but it is around in a few news sites if you hunt for it. Shout out to Spiky Bits for being the site that I found that also had the lore teasers recorded in the news article. I'll quickly cover the three options here so you have at least the general idea behind them. The three potential syndicates were called the Order of the Chimera, the Council, and the Sandmen, and they were each associated with a different character in Malifaux. The Order of the Chimera was themed around Marcus of the Arcanists, helping to fund his colleagues as they fought to keep his homeland of Egypt independent. To do so, they planned to mutate the local animals to resemble Egyptian mythological creatures, and use them to fight against anyone who threatened Egypt's independence. Remember, in the lore right now, Egypt is having a really bad time, with it being a major cult hotspot, and Abyssinia trying to conquer it for their current emperor's all of Africa under one banner plan. The Council was for Ramos of the Arcanists, who at the end of Malifaux's 2nd edition was sold out by his trusted henchmen and imprisoned by the Guild in Vienna. In exchange, the Guild promised to force the United States to finally end slavery. So it was a really good deal for everyone, honestly. For context, in this timeline the US is much smaller than our version, and is little more than a guild puppet state, since the Great Breach to Malifaux is located in New Mexico. Anyways, the Council are the original rivals to the Guild, and are the group that actually opened the Great Breach. But opening it killed so many of them that the Guild was able to surpass the survivors easily. Hundreds of years later, they want to do a jailbreak on Ramos and use his power and influence to once again surpass the Guild. Lastly, the group that ended up winning was the Sandmen, who was themed around the Tyrant Nytemare, spelled N-Y-T-E, who is the sort of father figure, sort of imaginary friend, but mostly manipulator of the Dreamer of the Neverborn. I'll cover more about them and why Nytemare suddenly cares about Earth in a bit. So now here we are, almost 7 years later, and we finally have our first hint that the Sandmen are on the way. In the July 2024 fact document, they added the Sandmen to the list of allegiances with a name kind of redacted, but definitely still meant to be legible. There's no time frame given, of course, but the fact that we're even mentioning them in an official document gives me hope that they're not far out. So that's where they come from and how we know they're on the way, but who are the Sandmen and why should we care about them? First, you have to understand the relationship between the Dreamer and Nytemare. The Dreamer is a little rich boy living in London who would basically astrally project himself onto Malifaux as he slept. He thought he was always just having very fun and exciting dreams, when he's actually sicking monsters from the Dream Realm onto whoever had the misfortune of coming across him in Malifaux. Malifaux is home to several nearly godlike creatures called Tyrants, who all specialize in different areas, and the Tyrant Nytemare is the master of dreams. So you can imagine Nytemare's shock when he comes across this little human kid messing around with his dream realm. Amazingly, the Dreamer has so much innate power in the dream realm that he can even control Nytemare to a degree, commanding this ancient power to join him on his nighttime adventures with a confidence that only a child has. Now, most of the Tyrants are often so blindly desperate for power that they end up forcing everyone else to fight together to slap the Tyrant of the Weak back down. However, Nytemare is one of the more dangerous Tyrants because he's actually a little smart about it. He's happy to quietly gain power in the shadows and laugh at his rivals when they get beat up. So Nytemare decided to play along with the boy and teach him how to manipulate the Dream Realm even better. As he did so, he waited and watched to see how he can best use this kid to his advantage. Over the years of their nightly adventures together, the Dreamer even starts to see Nytemare as a beloved friend, and something like a second father to him. He even gives Nytemare the adorable nickname Lord Chompy Bits, which the Tyrant plays along with. Things started to change when Serena Bowman arrived in Malifaux. When she came to Malifaux, she gained the power to twist reality, similar to but weaker than the Dreamer's power. She immediately caught Nytemare's interest, as it showed him the Dreamer is not unique. He imbued Serena with a little bit of his power, just in case anything happened to the Dreamer before he can use him. Serena's arrival was a subtle but major turning point in Dreamer and Nytemare's relationship, as from here on out, Nytemare starts to grow more distant and less willing to play along with the Dreamer, as he saw less need of keeping the boy happy. A little while after Serena appeared on Malifaux, the Dreamer's life on Earth started to go very badly wrong. When the Dreamer was 12, the Burning Man appeared over London and caused the gibbering hordes and cult of the Burning Man to show up and destroy much of the city. The Dreamer's father was killed by cultists, and the mansion he grew up in was one of the buildings destroyed in all the chaos. With the trauma of all that happening, combined with the Dreamer growing up, his dreams have been getting darker and angrier, and that's changing the forms of the dream monsters he summons on Malifaux. Sometime later, Nytemare happened to peek into the dreams of some members of the gibbering hordes, and was shocked to see signs that one of his Tyrant rivals, Meridion, was manipulating them on Earth. Now, generally speaking, the Tyrants are focused on Malifaux since it has so much more magic on it than Earth does. But, concerned that Meridion was making a big push for power that nobody else had noticed yet, he's decided to make a push for power himself on Earth before she can take over. It's now been years since the battle for London, and the Dreamer's life hasn't gotten much better. He needs his beloved friend more than ever, but Nytemare is growing more blatantly distant from him. The boy is struggling to even sleep now, and with the Dreamer's power of the Dream Realm weakened, Nytemare is finding himself more free to enact his plans. Humans all around the world are finding themselves sabotaging things as they sleep. Resources are going to the wrong place, crucial equipment is being damaged, and the people doing it have no memory when they wake up. Humanity isn't aware yet, but Nytemare is digging his claws into Earth, and nothing is safe now. Everyone needs to sleep sometime. Well, pretty cool stuff, right? The Dreamer and Nytemare are big fan-favorite characters in Malifaux, so it wasn't a shock at all that they're the ones who got the votes to win the Homefront campaign. Fingers crossed we hear more information about them soon, but for now that's really it. We could make some wild guesses, but we don't even know if the allegiance will be made up of dream monsters like we see in Malifaux, the literal sleeper agent humans that Nytemare is manipulating, or who knows what else. We haven't really seen what Nytemare does with the Dream Realm without the Dreamer's influence, so Weird has a lot of directions they could go in. One thing that would be very cool, but super unlikely, would be a Titan-sized version of Nytemare himself. I don't think it would make much sense in the current story, with Nytemare being a manipulate from the shadows kind of guy, but when humanity notices he's a problem, maybe he'll go all out. Another thing to consider is that the Dreamer has no idea what he's doing while he's asleep is real, let alone that Nytemare is real. I hope we get a story sometime in the future of the Dreamer realizing what he's done, and what Nytemare is now doing to his home. Maybe years from now, adult Dreamer will end up saving humanity by defeating his old, dear friend. Right, so that's it for today. I will happily put up another video whenever we get more details, but for now that's really all we know. I hope this has got you interested in the future. My next video will be something kind of like this, but much, much bigger, as I'm collecting as much lore as I can find on what's going on everywhere Earthside right now. I hope you enjoy it. Until then, happy gaming!